Justice Esther KISAKYE has come out to continue advocating for the rule of law. Justice Esther KISAKYE is I think he was the Deputy Chief Justice who got some confrontation with the then sitting Chief Justice Onyedoro when they were presiding over the presidential election petition. And he was blocked from access from reading his judgment, but also he was blocked from the judiciary to an extent that he addressed members of the press outside the precincts of the judiciary, which is unfortunate. He also ran into exile. Justice Esther KISAKYE had this to say when they asked him about the plight and democracy in the country. He has a tape.
Soldiers on the ground have removed their names, and we can't get them. We know the name of the Inspector General of Police. And we are the ones who know the law should now put pressure on the Inspector General of Police to account why we have a roadblock in front of Robert Kyagulanyi's house, violating the rights of not only Robert Kyagulanyi but all the owners in the area. How can you camp on the private property of a Ugandan citizen? How? As a crime being committed in the ground, in the home of, Robert Kyagulanyi, has a crime being committed there? These are things we are talking about. You can't have it. How can we claim we have a rule of the rule of law in Uganda when you can, armed soldiers can, or armed people in uniform, whether army or police, can just go and decide to create a military barracks in the home of a Ugandan citizen, even if he's the head of a political party. Even when we are doing investigations, you don't have those rights. And for how long do you cordon off if there's a crime, but there's no crime, but we have camped there because we are in leadership. These things must stop. For those who are in leadership, you are, it's a shame to all of us. Let's not continue shaming. If you have no shame, personally, Uganda has a name. Uganda has a name. Let's protect our name, because all of us, we can't just turn into Kenyans or Americans.
That is Justice Esther KISAKYE. First of all, a person at the caliber of KISAKYE, talking like that with a very vast experience in law. In fact, by the time they appointed Onyedoro as the Chief Justice, Esther KISAKYE had a credible experience. He was more educated than the then Chief Justice Onyedoro. But they elevated him they elevated Onyedoro, not Justice Esther KISAKYE. Of course, the Commander-in-Chief can elevate anyone. It's the reason as why sometimes I come out to say that we must stop this gesture of the sitting president appointing the Chief Justice. There must be another route where the Judicial Service Commission gives 3 names to the president to pick, not the president to pick anyone he desires. The presidency has a lot of power that he's abusing. So when the Deputy Chief Justice who ran into exile, Justice Esther KISAKYE, speaks like that, you clearly see that he has a good conscience of fighting for constitutionalism and democracy. And the purpose of this video, I've come to talk about the comments which are made by the Justice Esther KISAKYE, what means for our politics, and most importantly, the study materials you can learn from the politics of our nation. But before I do this, I want to let you know that if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. And if you're watching this video from a different platform, please head on to YouTube, type in Sula Mawagari. There's a lot of content of this nature. If geopolitics and economics is what you want, this will be definitely the right channel for you to subscribe to. First of all, Justice Esther KISAKYE, I personally came to know Justice Esther KISAKYE under the presidential election petition. He was among the dissenting judges when all the judges decided to uphold the 2021 election, which was so brutal. Okay, because in my entire life I've never seen a brutal election like the 2021. I normally hear stories in the 80s, etc., but this one was culminated by blocking opposition figures from campaigning, akin to what happened in 2026, is the reason as why I will keep on saying this, even in my grave. It was a mistake not to go to court to petition to do the presidential petition of 2026. Not that because I have faith in the courts of law, presided over by Owinidolo then, but because as we agitate for constitutionalism and the rule of law, sometimes we unearth things which we wouldn't have known. If we hadn't gone to court in the 2021, we wouldn't see the divide in the judiciary between the Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice, Esther KISAKYE. We wouldn't. But because there was a presidential petition, we saw how Owinidolo had presided over the judiciary in a very bad manner. Okay? And for me, it shows that we have a long way to go when it comes to democracy. Those people who are given power, okay, to work on the rule of law are the same person who go to bed with the regime. So Justice Esther KISAKYE ran into exile. Is among the very many high-profile Ugandans who are running outside the country because of the bad governance. To an extent that the judiciary under Past Vigilimana are continuing to do something so that he can even so that she does not even get the retirement benefits she deserves. It's the matter of fact. Okay, so Justice KISAKYE is also an asset in advocating for democracy and the rule of law. In fact, he continued to say this.
The Attorney General. But I too wrote a letter to the Attorney General, and it was an open letter. And I said, in case of my retirement, how could you have been the lawyer of the president and in an election petition, which I presided over, and then having represented your client very well, because the president was the incumbent and was the president-elect, and you were his lawyer, and then you were rewarded with the position of Attorney General, so you became a member of the Judicial Service Commission, and you took over the investigations, participated fully, and then advised, the president. What happened to conflict of interest rules? Is that what the office of the Attorney General is supposed to do under our Constitution? And in my letter to him, I said, maybe you are right. Can we have a debate? I've never had a response from him. I know he was busy campaigning, but now maybe that the campaigns are over, I would be glad to have a debate with him, because I asked him, maybe you are right. Can we have a public debate so that you can tell the people of Uganda which provisions of the Constitution you are interpreting to advise the president, to advise the Judicial Service Commission that a judge who has attained 60 years of age cannot voluntarily retire from the Supreme Court or any other court. These are the things we need to take up. So I think President Semakade, you raised these issues, and you said, how does my case, how do Ugandans connect with my case? For me, I don't need sympathy. What I call upon the people of Uganda to see is like, if this is happening to a Supreme Court justice who knows the law and who has articulated the law, I told the Attorney General in that letter, the letter is publicly available, that he's incompetent. I also wrote to the president and I said the Attorney General is incompetent, is endangering. Every day he remains in office, he's endangering our country, because if he can't give advice, proper advice on a matter as simple as a judge can retire after attaining 60 years, how are we sure that he's giving correct advice on much more complex and maybe much more complex issues than that? So we need to examine some of the things, and I know there are many fronts we need to tackle, but I would be happy to partner with the Ugandans, the bar, and the other Ugandans to tackle some of these people and say, why should you hold this office? And engage. Because otherwise, how can you proudly be up and say, I am the Attorney General of Uganda, but this constitution, this provision reads this, but for me, it reads this. You may say so, But tell us, what is your basis? If there are cases, cite the cases that back up your interpretation. Otherwise, what are you doing in that office?
That is justice, Esther. I keep on telling people that a country under a poor governance will always have people fighting that leadership. Leaders emerge, everyone has a role to play. So just some of the people will pay the ultimate price. Some of the people will run away to exile. But we must make our country better. General Museveni has done 40 years. There's nothing more that General Museveni will do even if you give him 100 years. Okay? And it is incumbent upon us to sit down, to continue speaking about these issues, to ask General Museveni to understand that Uganda is going to be here a million years after him, not to go down with our country. Of course, as my name was truly Mr. Makinde, Kabir Suleiman Margaret. If you're into this channel, please subscribe, like, and comment so that I can be motivated to do more of such videos. I'll see you on another one. Peace.